Welcome back. First Charged Up has now been officially played for 4 weeks, and we saw some great competitions across the world this past weekend. We have a lot to unpack in this show, like breaking down what happened at the SBPLI Regional and some referee and official scoring misses, district championships approaching, and how to make sure that your team is prepared for them, and discussion related to the problems with FRC and how to address them. All of this and more coming up on this edition of FRC Roundup.
This video on First Updates Now is made possible by viewers like you and also the following sponsors. Kettering University is looking for talented robotics students who want to continue learning and innovating in a hands-on, real-world experience format. Kettering University representatives will be at dozens of FIRST events this season, including the championship. Go to kettering.edu/first to see which events you can meet a Kettering University representative. FRC competition season is here. Submit your favorite moments to FRC Clips of the Week by each Sunday at discord.gg/firstupdatesnow. Also, the FRC Top 25 poll is open Sunday 5 p.m. Eastern to Monday 5 p.m. Eastern, where you can vote for your top 25 teams of the week at firstupdatesnow.com/FRC Top 25.
All right, welcome to the show. If you've not caught our show previously, FRC Roundup is where we take a look at important topics currently happening in FRC, highlight some discussion points about events that may have happened, strategy, or anything that is correlated with FRC. If you, the fun community, think that there is a topic that we should cover on FRC Roundup, please feel free to ping me in the fun Discord, and I'll be more than happy to take a look at it. If you're not familiar with me, my name is Nick Mathis, and I'm currently in the 1st and Michigan region, and I'm a mentor for Team 33, the Killer Bees.
And I'm Connor McBride, mentor for Team 166 Chop Shop, MC and game announcer in the New England District. Our guest tonight is Brandon Hawley. Brando is a mechanical engineer at Sonos and the drive coach mentor for New England powerhouse Team 125, the NUTRONs from Revere, Massachusetts. Brando, welcome to the show.
Thanks, guys. Good to be back.
Yeah, cool. Thanks again for hopping on. So jumping right into topic one, we're going to be taking a look at the first Long Island Regional and some referee and official scoring misses that has happened in Charged Up. There was a Chief Delphi thread that came up about 5 days ago referencing a finals match that happened at the Long Island Regional number 1. The post reads that when you watch the Autonomous on the Blue Line side, the final tie-breaking match of the New York Long Island Regional, the 2872 and 870 both moved past the mobility line. 334's bumpers were slightly on it, which means they did not get the mobility point, but 2872 and 870 did. Based on Autonomous, the Blue Lions earned 6 automobility points, but in the final match score, the Blue Lions only received 3 automobility points despite earning the 6. They end up losing the match, but I believe it was by less than 3 points, and would have won if this mobility was counted. It's interesting because this is not the first time that I have heard or seen an issue that may have happened with a referee or a official scoring, whichever it may be, because there are 2 different members that are inputting scores this year, and there are issues happening. One thing that has happened as well that I have noticed, as well as on TBA and looking at what happened to my team as well at the Bevel District event, is that a lot of the time the official scorer is actually not taking the referee panel outside of autonomous mode while they're being scored. So Tyler, if you could go to the TBA match that I linked, you can see that in the actual link. This happened this past weekend at the Troy event number 1, Qual 23. It says that there's actually the Red Alliance actually scored 19 auto game pieces, which obviously, as we can see, is not possible. There's only 4 pieces that you can actually score. There's only 4 pieces that you can score in autonomous on your alliance outside of the 3 that you're stored, so max 7. So with that being said, then the panel is then counting each piece being scored as +1, as an extra point for each piece. This had happened to 33 at the Belleville District event. We were competing in a match, and the whoever it was, the referee or the official scorer, I'm not 100% sure on whose point it actually is to make that note, did not take the panel out of the autonomous mode. So the entire match, we were scoring more points than we actually were. And in turn, made some strategy decisions off of that. And we're winning the match at the end of the match. And in turn, did lose the match. And we rightfully lost the match. The other lines did score more points than we did. We just were under the impression that we were winning the match. And in turn, obviously, we're not. So It's interesting. Another thing that came to mind too was there's been multiple times that I've watched where the docking and engaging in auto has been completely missed. For one, for example, again, I'm in Michigan, so obviously watch a lot of Michigan teams, and one match that comes to mind is when 5460 was competing at Western in Ontario. They're obviously balancing in autonomous, or they're obviously on the ramp in autonomous, and they don't get awarded with a dock in auto, and in turn end up losing the match or losing the RP because of it. So as you know, Tyler's got the match on screen right now, and you can see that at the end of autonomous they are docked and they don't end up earning anything and lose the RP because of it. So Connor, we'll go to you. I know you and Brando both watch a ton of events, but what has been your guys' overall thoughts with the referee official scoring situation, as well as what happened at the Long Island Regional? Kind of tying it all together.
So for the most part, what I've seen is that it is like mostly user error, not clearing that panel. Tyler, if you want to go back to that match at Troy, that match 34, you can see right at the end of auto, just watch that tablet. At the top of the tablet, there is a yellow bar that says it clearly states auto has not been submitted. You can watch that referee go and tap the button that to submit auto, and it goes away. So this looks like one of those where it wasn't a user error, where it looks like it was possibly a field fault there, where the system still continued to score game pieces, register them as auto. I've seen both of them. We had that didn't happen at the event that I was at UNH, but there was a match at UNH, match 78, where all the game pieces were scored in auto, were listed as scored in auto. And I know the for balancing or docking during the charging station and auto, the opposite side of the field, that referee is in charge of making sure that the charging station points awarded there are in charge of that. So it's more than just one person than doing it. Whether if that's just volunteers just not like paying attention or not being trained to be trained correctly. There's multiple problems here. But I think the biggest solution for teams right now, especially with those with like incorrect with like autos, with like game pieces being scored in auto continuously through the match, make sure that you're checking match breakdown after your matches and making sure that everything is being scored correctly. Because like even if like you can go up to the question box, you can submit that to your head referee and be like, hey, this is a field fault. So as much as the volunteers should be on top of their jobs, you should also be watching out for yourself as well. Because especially in a qual match, like those are some those could be the difference between 2 ranking points and no ranking points for the win or the loss. So that there can be massive seeding implications. So make sure you're watching out for yourself. And if you want to do the GP thing as well, watch out for others too.
Yeah. So the counterpoint that I have to that, and then Brenda, I'll go ahead and bring it to you, is that at least in my experience of talking to some people at 5460, it happened to a couple teams at Troy when I was at Troy this past weekend, when they're bringing the issue specifically related to not being awarded the auto dock. The referees essentially saying, at least in all the experiences that I've heard, that they didn't see it and pretty much you're shit out of luck. It's unfortunate to put it that way, but obviously where there not being any sort of video review, and if the referee did not see it, there's not much that they can do past that point, even though that it does affect the outcome of the match, and RP isn't the outcome of a match, so at least in my opinion. But Brando, go ahead and go to you.
Yeah, it's funny. I read the thread and saw the Long Island reaction, and I've been doing FRC for a very long time. These things come up every year, and it's always a point of tension between volunteers and teams. And it'd obviously be ideal if we could eliminate or at least reduce those tension points. And so my first reaction, actually, when I read through all this, was my work brain switched on. And so I lead product teams that we obsess about trying to make products easy to use and simple. And I just went to why is the system even able to do some of the things that it can? Like, it should be impossible, right, for you to be able to score more than the game pieces that you start with on your side of the field, like just as a very basic piece, right? And if for whatever reason that hit some limit, there could be a real time like intervention there as part of the flow of the ref or the scoring input to like capture and say, hey, are you sure that you're still in auto? And at least flip you out and like try to pull the real time back to something that's more accurate. Um, and then I go a step further with that too, and it's like from a technology point of view, relying on humans to input data into admittedly pretty old and beat up tablets on the side of the field just feels like a recipe that's going to make mistakes. And so I feel bad for the teams involved. I know we believe we had an instance at one of our events, where we had a misscored issue, and we talked to the refs about it. You got the same story that Nick that you mentioned, right?
Mhm.
Just we didn't see it, and we'll try to do better next time. And like honestly, we've all been at events. I just got back from hosting our event all weekend. The
Right.
side of the field is chaotic. It's crazy. You're there all day. I honestly am impressed that people are able to get the accuracy they do.
Oh, I fully agree.
Just
Yep.
so it's tough, right? Like the tension between the volunteers and the teams is tough. Teams, legitimately losing because points weren't tabulated properly is
Mhm.
is rough. And I think we should all just voice where we can, to try and get to a place where we're using the technology to aid us here. There's probably a million different ways we could all propose to automate the scoring in some way.
Mhm.
But that's where my mind went to with this whole thing was like, why are we still relying on manual input? And even with that, why does the manual input have effectively software bugs in it that allow us to get in states that aren't possible?
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yep.
Tyler, you had something to add?
I got just a couple quick points to make. One, every event I've been to, and I've been to now 9 this year so far. So I guess not including the week 0. Every regional I've been, or every regional
Mhm.
district, so that's 8. Every single one has had errors in RP. And teams going up to the rest panel. Now, I will say, at most of the events I've been to, the ones that I have seen have gotten overturned, which is good.
Oh,
That
okay.
that does happen, but it is clearly happening on a very
Mm.
wide level for things. Number 2, I just want to go back to Long Island for a couple things. First
Mhm.
off, there was a mention in chat in regards to a red card that happened during one of the semifinals matches or going in. Yeah, I mean, it was extremely questionable. However, I don't think we should go over that rabbit hole right now for that. In the finals, there's a couple things I want to point out. With the results that were made, the alliance that included 3015, 2875, and 1468 did win this event. That's how it's called. That's how it's going to stay. It's not changing. So if anybody
Right.
has dreams that that's going to happen, it's not going to. If they didn't change World Championships back in 2012 for hacking, they're not going to change the Long Island regional results for that. However,
Yeah.
with that said, there have been many instances in the past where, I shouldn't say many, but quite a few instances in the past where teams have been qualified to go to the World Championships because a missed call
Yep.
was made. This is 100% one of those occasions where that should have happened. I'll always take both sides with it where, members of the Blue Alliance in this match mentioned that, like, hey, it could have changed. Like, if we saw the score was one thing and it was something else, it could change. I agree with that. And to me, I think that at that point, it almost should just be a field fault and a match should be replayed or something like that. Because on the other hand, to just overturn it like that and say, well, the entire match score was wrong, I don't know. It kind of goes both ways. Now, I'll take the other side of the devil's advocate and say, well, real-time scoring is never real-time scoring. So there's not really a great way to know what
Right.
that scoring is going to be all the
Oh,
time.
yeah.
So I guess on your all's end, I just love to hear like what do you think the result of that match should be? Let's say it was caught right away and they said, you know what, we did screw up auto. We're going to make it change. Should it be a replay? Should the results have been overturned and the Red Alliance win that match? What are your thoughts go for something like that?
You get into a sticky situation, right? Because at least in my opinion, in this specific scenario, I think the result should just be switched. It happened in autonomous. It was only what you get. Is it 6 points for mobility? 3 points for mobility? Three. So it's 3 points. It's only a 3 point difference. I don't know that a 3 point change really affects your strategy of the match. It very well might. But at least in my opinion, I think this is just a situation where hey, we messed up, change the outcome. With that being said, I think it's from a community standpoint, would be more accepted if they were just like, hey, we're going to replay this match. We had an error on the scoring end. Let's just go ahead and replay it and ensure that it's a fair match past that point. But
So in 2016 at our New England District Championship, we had a very similar situation play out where basically a game piece. It was the alliance that we were playing. It's a pretty infamous set of matches because it took hours to complete the
Yeah.
semifinals. But yeah, I mean, the long story short was they missed the belief was we missed an auto score by the alliance that we were facing. Um, we had won the match, and actually, the match was declared, and we actually had loaded onto the field to start finals. And then that had kind of come to light, and there was a long discussion. And then our case was, the same case that I think, the I forget which color alliance as the winning alliance that Long Island had, which was, look, we would have played the match differently, had we known that, especially at the beginning of the match. I think towards the end of the match where things are getting chaotic and the scoring is coming in. But from a coaching point of view, you're definitely looking at what happens in auto to give yourself a gauge for,
yeah, absolutely.
how to approach the match. And so what ended up happening was we just decided to replay the match. And I remember, specifically talking to the other teams in that moment. And we ended up deciding to, everyone felt good about that, about the replay. And I feel like, it helped us kind of walk away feeling like everyone had the best shot there
Right.
overall. And hopefully the other lines feels that way too all these years later. But I guess that's how I would like to see it, resolved in the future. That being said, as Tyler just mentioned, for how widespread some of these misscores is, replaying every elimination match over and over again, as someone who just ran an event this past weekend, that's untenable too. But I would say, like, maybe even if it's just in a finals only situation, at least it's a starting point.
Right.
Where in finals, if that's recognized, the match is replayed.
Yeah. Connor, overall thoughts before we go ahead and move on?
I pretty much agree with Brando right there. He just kind of hit the nail on the head.
Yeah, I agree. All right, Connor, go ahead. And Connor's going to lead us in our next topic and the district championship and how your team can prepare for your district championship coming up next week.
Yeah, so we're heading into week 5 right now, and we actually have the North Carolina District Championship coming up. That's the second championship event this year. I know we're missing out on Israel, so sorry about that, guys, but that we're not covering this a week earlier. But I think this is a good time to bring it up now. So I mean, what you need to know about like your district championship, like that for most teams, this is where like your season will most likely end. So this is like your championship experience. So there are numerous ways that you can be able to prep for this event. Things that like come to mind for me is, just as much driver practice as you can in between your second event and your district championship, assuming that you're not like my team where you're competing the week before and then you have 2 days in between your last event and your district championship. So plan your qualifying events accordingly. But one of the biggest things is make sure that you are consistent, to be honest. Don't change unless if you like you need to make like massive repairs, or like you want to like completely do like or if you're going to do like a complete redesign of like an intake or something like this, like it probably might not be the best thing in the world, unless if you have like a massive amount of district points going into your event and you have that, like you're able to like make that risk. I know for this year specifically for 2023, in my opinion, if you're coming into district champs and you don't have an auto balance, there's a solid chance you might not get picked on Saturday or for your playoffs. It's just going to be absolutely huge. I mean, more so even for New England district champs, we have 2 divisions. So you're going to see a lot more play, but there's going to be a lot of teams that are going to be able to have like maybe like 2 game piece autos plus a balance, or even if you're that late second round pick, if you have a game piece score plus balance, that's going to be huge for your 2 partners that you're paired up with to be able to do 2, maybe even a 3 game piece auto. So for that, I'd like to just want to pass this off to Brando, because I know you've gone to more district championships than probably Nick and I combined. So what are your tips here?
Yeah, as we were like talking about the show, I was trying to think, like, collect my thoughts on how we approach things and like lessons we've learned over the years, and like, um, I think like you can look at the way the competition season goes in a few different phases, and every team's probably got their own chunk of them. Obviously, you have kind of the early days where you're just trying to get things working and establish the performance that you've maybe had in your shop or that you expected to have. Um, for us, I think talking about DCMP and beyond, it's really about the polish step. We're really at the point now where it's about refinement, and trying to make sure that your robot, as you've now constructed it, is performing to its possible, highest possible level. So we really try to keep some of the major design stuff out of it. Um, and but I think there's arguments for teams to have to adjust, to that. So that's why I always find it interesting to see how people approach the district championship. But for us, it's really about um, needing to be reliable, to be super consistent. And so, this last weekend, we put another new claw on our robot, as is tradition, I think, for everyone this year. But we really did that at risk, knowing that going into district championship, we were not going to be doing any major iterations to that mechanism anymore. So that's a big piece for it. We spend a lot of time. We 3D print a lot of parts, so we spend a lot of time just taking a step back and cataloging things, making sure we have extra belts, extra printed parts, things that we know that we would worry about. Even if it's only so we sleep better, going
Right,
in.
exactly.
Sure.
Um, and then yeah, district champs too. The other big piece of it, aside from the robot, is it's I think it's a really unique look at competition. It's a huge step up from any district level you're going to. Every team that's walking in there knows how to play the game, is smart. Probably, most matches, like Connor, you just mentioned, most matches probably everyone can auto balance. So now you're coordinating more strategic autos and trying to maximize what you can get out of your entire alliance. And so you start thinking really strategically, and for all of everyone that plays in a limbs, as you take that strategic approach to each alliance you're facing in each round, you're doing that every quals match, right? Every quals match, you're super deep strategically, you're pulling out a limbs type of strategies, especially with how much firepower is sitting out there. So overall, we think district championship is probably our favorite event, in terms of mixing it up with all our friends, which is a lot of fun. But then also just that competition level, getting raised to the level that it does.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Two quick things before we move on. The one thing, at least for me, then a lot of you, both of you hit it on as well. At least from a 33 perspective, one thing that we like to do is we the past couple of years we've competed week 1 and we've competed week 3. Week 1, week 3 is between week 1 and week 3 is when we would like to do the major redesign. If there's something like, hey, if going into week 1, if we know there's something we want to redesign, we really want to target to hit that within week 1 and 3. To ensure that it's on the robot for 3, and then we can perfect it past that point. So, like for example, we were talking offline prior, but 33 is on like the 9th rendition of our intake this year, and the last one went on right before Belleville, and we've been iterating on that, and that's really the only design thing we're changing. It's mainly from that point just improving the software on the robot too, like you said, Brando, being prepared for all sorts of strategic situations that are going to come up with autonomous, and being able to balance from different sides of the rim so other teams can go, on either sides and score from that point. Really just trying to make yourself as versatile as possible from that end. So, any last thoughts before we move on?
Kind of want to add one more thing. This isn't going to be super helpful for this year, but hopefully for the future for teams that are in the district model. And I know this is a little bit against what 125 does, which is like back to back events. One thing that like what 166 does, we like to stagger our events. Having that at least 1 week in between events, like I know this year we did week 2 and week 5. Having that time to be able to take a break, decompress a little bit, get your bearings aligned after that first event, and if there's any repairs you need to do, any kind of upgrades, my team, we're not always like ready to go to be able to like work 24/7 to be able to get like a new intake out or like within a day or two. For us, it takes a little bit of time, which is okay. But if you can, if your team allows you to be able to do that, because I know some teams don't have that luxury. Like some teams that might be like told by their school, it's like, no, you're only allowed to go out and compete like week 3 and week 4. Like if that's what it is, then so be it. I understand. But if you're a team that has that luxury, I personally highly recommend being able to stagger that those events.
Yep, totally agree. All right, before we go and jump into our final topic of the night, let's go ahead and bring Tyler on to talk about our show sponsor, Kettering University.
Thanks a lot, Nick. Yeah, Kettering University is looking for you. Students, if you are looking for a fantastic place to go that will actively support you being in first, did you know that actually 30% of high school students who attend Kettering University are from high school robotics? Kettering University is going to be all over first events. They already have been. It's actually hard to go to a first event and not see a Kettering rep right now. So if you want to learn more about Kettering University, their amazing engineering programs, and actually beyond, and also their first center, combat robotics team, and more, go to kettering.edu/first to see if there's a Kettering rep near you or going to an event you'll be at. Of course, they're going to be all over the World Championships because they're sponsoring one of the World Championship fields. So go to kettering.edu/first to learn more and to see if there's a Kettering rep near you.
Okay, awesome. Thanks again to our friends at Kettering University. Jumping into our final topic of the night, there was a thread on Chief Delphi that popped up, I believe it was a day or so ago, regarding the problems with FRC and how to address them. I thought it was a pretty detailed post and created some interesting conversations that happened in that thread, but there are two main things, in my opinion, that I want to highlight on and have a discussion on. The one thing, obviously, it's no secret, FRC is one of the most expensive clubs, sports situations currently in high school, at least in the United States. It's easy, $6,000 the registration fee, and then at least in Michigan, if you're qualifying for a DCMP, it's another 4,000, and the World Championship another 5,000 on that end. So right off the bat, you're looking at $15,000 in registration fees before you even build any sort of robot team T-shirts, travel, or anything of that sort. So that's definitely the biggest issue, at least in my opinion. In the original post, they had commented about maybe capping teams on resources and funding, and I think there has to be a way to make it cheaper to not have teams do that. I don't think that is necessarily the answer. One thing that I think is interesting that we could possibly bring up, at least I know, and for the people that are on the show tonight, we already sort of have this, but does having a super regional and a smaller championship solve this issue? I know essentially Michigan and New England pretty much already have their own super regionals with the DCMPs, but is there a scenario in which we have like the Midwest regionals and their collective championship qualifiers then compete in a super regional on that end, and then maybe lower the championship cost for how many teams would be entertaining, and would maybe expose more teams to have a championship experience at that super regional? The other thing that I thought was interesting that I want to comment on in this thread is the comment about capping FRC teams by members. And I know that this is something that FTC does, at least they do in Michigan. I'm not 100% sure if it's nationwide, but at least in Michigan, each FTC team is capped to 15 team members. And at least in my opinion, this is arguably the one thing in my mind that kills FTC for me. I really hate having to either A, turn down kids because we only have funding for one team, or B, having to create an entire new team for like 5 kids and then spreading resources past that point. I don't think that the option is for that to do with FRC, because then you're going to get to the point where, okay, well, say it's capped at 25 members, but I have 35 kids. Well, do I, take away the first experience from 10 kids, or do I raise another 30 grand and try to run another FRC team? So I don't think that, that is really an option, at least from my standpoint. But Brando, I know obviously you run an FRC team, but what are your current problems with FRC and maybe a possible solution that you have with the program?
Yeah, I mean, talking about that last point first. So we run a lot of FTC teams as well, and I think there's a practical limit to the FTC team members. So like whether there's a hard cap at 15 or or not, there's just a practical limit for how many students you can get deeply involved in FTC robot.
For sure.
One of the things though that I think in this, like, really, I think helps highlight kind of the big step up that you get going from an FTC team to an FRC team is like look at some of the giant teams, that exist and like really do FRC well. There's no shortage of stuff to do. Like
Yeah,
to run an
absolutely.
FRC team, it's effectively a business, and there's ways to enhance that your overall structure and make yourself better across the board. And one side feeds the other. Good robot performance can help raise some attention for you, which helps generate some more funding. And if you have all these pieces in place, your team can really grow. So yeah, I think I'm pretty much agree there that capping an FRC team size would be a huge change, and also very hard to enforce. I think, like, to use the Formula One analogy, right, with a cost structure limit or some sort of overall team size limit. I just go right to how are we like evaluating this and
Right.
keeping tabs on it, and it just invites a whole nother world of chaos and rules structure that I think a lot of folks have been, voicing, and we've made some good strides over the last few years around removing some of those structures, like the bomb and the
Mhm.
bag and all that other stuff. So,
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah, definitely agree. Hot take: the bag going away in FRC is easily one of the best things that happened for the program, and I stand by that in my opinion. But Connor, I know you've been doing FRC for a while as well. Overall, thoughts or problems that you have with the program, maybe possible solutions.
I don't want a team cap. Like everyone deserves to be able to have that access to be able to join a team in their area, regardless of how big it is. Like I can think back to when I was in, like fifth, sixth, seventh grade. Like I got turned down from our town FLL teams 3 years in a row, to the
Mhm.
point where it nearly turned me off from robotics overall. Like
Yeah,
if I didn't give it one last swing, and when I was in eighth grade, there's a solid chance I wouldn't be sitting here in this call right now.
right.
So, yeah, capping that's just absolutely ridiculous in my opinion.
Yeah,
Um, yeah.
yeah, I agree. Tyler, you wanted to jump on? You got something spicy?
Well, here's the thing. On my end, I guess two things. Connor, I completely agree with you. Team caps are a bunch of bull crap. The whole point of FIRST is to get students to be involved, right? And the
Yep.
spread larger and larger. So looking at it from the large program level of things, like what the board wants to do and that sort of thing, that's what FIRST is all about. But I'm going to give I guess a different perspective. When I used to run a team, we
Mhm.
aspired to be like teams that had it done correctly. Like we
Yeah.
busted our ass off to get to that point like that. I really am sick of people complaining like, oh, this team has it better than you. That team busted their ass off to get there. Like
Right.
is that every team? No, but there are so many teams that they are structured well, not just because it magically happened overnight, because they worked hard to make that happen. Why don't you learn from those teams and better yourselves as well too? Now, with that said, are there still disadvantages and disparities? Absolutely, there are. However, we need to be focusing on the good parts out of that and helping teams in particular than limiting or setting teams back. I'm sorry, it is absolutely ridiculous that, ever since FIRST has been born, it's always XYZ team is mentor built. XYZ team is unfair because of this, and this. You don't know their situation. You don't know what they've been going through for things. And you sure as hell don't know what it took for them to get there. So you know what? Figure out what they're doing and try to apply that. And you know what? Ask them. They will help you as well too for this. It's just
Preach it, baby.
it just
Bravo.
makes me so mad for things that we're not trying to focus on what teams are doing well and trying to apply that to your team or apply it to other teams. And you know what, teams?
Right.
You should be, that's the whole point of Impact and EI and stuff, is reaching out and helping other teams and getting them to be better as well too. Are there going to be teams that are a shop teacher and 10 students and that's it? Yes. Does that mean that they should get some sort of huge boost because of that? I don't think so.
No, I don't think so either.
Yeah, and to back you up there, Tyler, too, I think like I've had our team budget fed back to me in a number of ways before, and absolutely laughed at the numbers that came in. For some folks assumed that our team has some gigantic budget that we're pulling from, and then they walk into our high school and they see what we actually have and what we've built for ourselves. yeah, we have, resources, but they're resources that we put in place, and we
Mhm.
certainly do not have, a giant budget. So I think that part of that too, is you can learn a lot by actually talking to these teams, engaging with them, and trying to establish what they're doing right, and see what you can mimic yourself.
I'm right there with you, Brando, because like you walk into the 166 shop, the most like sophisticated piece of machinery in our shop is an Omeo that we got last year. We've been around we've been around since '95, so like the fact that we have that now is just like it's great. But like, man, I just lost my train of thought right there.
I got one
Um,
quick one I want to throw in there, that in the spirit of productivity and like what
Mhm.
can we do better. The one idea I did read in that thread, that something that I've actively been working on for a very long time for the Boston area, is the concept of these kind of like pop up common practice spaces and
Oh,
like
100% agree.
oh
limited field
yes,
setups. So like I think that if systemic problems in first, it's access to playing fields,
Yep.
and that flows through everywhere. It's like it's the building access, we're actually physically having a space, but we also need to do like a way better job of constructing the fields, and coming up with better field plans so that they're accessible too. Like I mean, look at the charging station this year. It's like it's an exact
yep,
relive from 2012's bridge, thing.
Yeah.
Obviously,
There's so
it's
much
not as
disparity.
detrimental to teams, but it's so expensive to fabricate one. We're fortunate in New England uh, to have a team of teams
yes,
come together to pitch in their resources, and their sponsors to be able to build a single, not a single unofficial but official
Mhm.
charging station, uh,
yep.
and it's helped a ton of teams this year.
Yeah,
So
shout out to
yeah,
190 Mechanical Advantage and WPI for putting all that together. Seriously.
Yeah, that's a big deal. Okay.
I just want to add one more thing
Yeah.
because not only is it just like building up your reputation around you like in your community, but also like getting those sponsors and also holding on to that. I don't think a lot of teams realize how hard it is to also like keep like sponsorship relationships strong. Like for one of our main machinist sponsors, because like we don't have like a lot of machining in house, so like a majority of our robot is machined out of house by sponsors, and like one of our machinists, like we we fought for like 7 to 8 years straight, just sending them emails every single year asking for sponsorship for it's an international company who just so happens to have a headquarters in our town, but
Mhm.
it took almost a decade just for us to finally be able to get something. And like that, like, and we're like, we're not gonna lose this, we're gonna hold on to this as long as we can, and just making sure that our relationships are really nice and strong with your sponsors can go such a long way.
Yeah.
So I just
Totally
want to end
agree.
on that. So
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, thanks for everybody for tuning into FRC Roundup. Special thanks to all those who clicked that follow button or stepped up to help fund with a quick subscription or donation. Your support really helps us make great content. Don't forget, you can watch FRC Roundup archived at youtube.com/first updates now, and watch live Mondays after FRC recap during the competition season. Thank you to Brando, our guest, for coming on tonight. And on behalf of our producer, Tyler Olds, my co-host Connor, and all fun correspondents, I'm Mick Jr., and thanks for watching. Good luck to all teams competing in Week 5 of the competition season coming up this weekend. And big thanks to our moderators in chat as well. See you next week, same day, same time, where we take a look at what is going on with First Robotics on FRC Roundup. Thanks, everyone.
This video on First Updates Now is made possible by viewers like you and also the following sponsors. Kettering University is looking for talented robotics students who want to continue learning and innovating in a hands-on, real-world experience format. Kettering University representatives will be at dozens of FIRST events this season, including the championship. Go to kettering.edu/first to see which events you can meet a Kettering University representative. FRC competition season is here. Submit your favorite moments to FRC Clips of the Week by each Sunday at discord.gg/firstupdatesnow. Also, the FRC Top 25 poll is open Sunday 5 p.m. Eastern to Monday 5 p.m. Eastern, where you can vote for your top 25 teams of the week at firstupdatesnow.com/FRC Top 25. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the bell to stay up to date on our new videos. Keep the conversation going and provide your input to our content. Watch our live shows at twitch.tv/firstupdatesnow. Join our Discord at discord.gg/firstupdatesnow and check out Fun FTC on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and First Updates Now on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter.